Look at the map of the Middle East. It's a region defined by vast deserts and ancient history. But zoom in on this tiny, jagged tooth of water. This is the Strait of Hormuz. Only 21 miles wide, yet it dictates the fate of the global economy. If the world were a living organism, this would be its carotid artery. It is the most sensitive pressure point on the planet. One wrong move here, and the global heart skips a beat. Today, we explore why this narrow passage holds the world's breath. Every day, massive supertankers, the largest man-made objects ever built, navigate a channel only 2 miles wide. They carry the lifeblood of modern civilization. Without them, the lights go out in Tokyo, the factories stop in Shanghai, and the cars stall in New York City. Economists call it a choke point. It's a word that sounds clinical, but it carries the weight of trillions of dollars. When tensions rise in Hormuz, the price of oil at your local gas station follows. This is the geography of power in the 21st century. The scenery is breathtakingly beautiful, but the peace is an illusion. Beneath these calm waters and between these silent cliffs lies a history of conquest, greed, and a modern shadow war that never truly ends. To understand our future, we must look at the past. Long before the world knew what crude oil was, Hormuz was the glittering prize of the Silk Road. In the 13th century, the kingdom of Hormuz sat at this gate, controlling the flow of spices, silks, and horses between the distant east and the Mediterranean. In 1272, the legendary explorer Marco Polo arrived here. He described a city of immense wealth, though he complained bitterly about the heat. To the ancient world, the strait was a filter. It determined who became rich in Europe and who controlled the Indian Ocean. Hormuz was the bridge. Cloves from the Moluccas, cinnamon from Ceylon, and silk from China all had to pass through this narrow neck. It was a place where cultures collided, languages mingled, and fortunes were made in the shadows of the dry desert mountains. In 1507, the Portuguese explorer Afonso de Albuquerque arrived with a terrifying fleet of warships. He understood a fundamental geopolitical truth. If you control the choke points, you control the world. The Portuguese brought iron and gunpowder to the peaceful trade routes of the Gulf. They built a massive stone fortress on Hormuz Island, turning the strait into a private toll booth for the West. For over a century, the Portuguese held the keys to the gate, taxing every ounce of wealth that moved between the East and the Western world. But empires never last forever. In 1622, the Persian Safavid Emperor Shah Abbas decided he had enough. He combined forces with the British East India Company to oust the Portuguese. This marked a turning point, shifting the influence from Lisbon to London and Tehran. The British influence would remain for centuries. They protected the Trucial States, what we now know as the UAE, ensuring the strait remained open for the burgeoning British Empire. But a new, darker treasure was about to be discovered beneath the sand. For 300 years, the strait was about spices and strategic naval dominance. But as the 19th century closed, the Industrial Revolution was hungry for a new kind of power. The era of the Silk Road was ending, and the age of oil was beginning. Coal was the king of the 19th century, but oil was the future. Every major power knew that whoever controlled the energy source of the coming century would rule the world. All eyes turned toward the sleepy, sun-baked coastlines of the Persian Gulf. The transition was slow at first, then explosive. The Strait of Hormuz was about to go from a regional trade route to the most important nautical mile in the history of human civilization. The stage was set for the 20th century. May 26, 1908. In the middle of the Persian desert, black liquid erupted from the earth at Masjid Suleiman. It was the first major oil strike in the Middle East. Suddenly, the Strait of Hormuz wasn't just a path, it was the exit ramp for energy. Winston Churchill, then head of the British Navy, made a monumental decision. He transitioned the entire British fleet from coal to oil. This guaranteed that the British Empire's survival now depended on the safe passage of tankers through the narrow mouth of the Gulf. By the end of World War II, the world was addicted to oil. It powered the planes, the tanks, and the rebuilding of Europe. The Strait of Hormuz became the world's gas station, a vital link that the Allied powers could never afford to lose. The post-war boom in America and Europe was built on cheap energy. That energy came from the Ghawar field in Saudi Arabia and the massive reserves in Kuwait and Iraq. Every drop of that wealth had to pass through the 21-mile gap of Hormuz. Refineries began to line the coastlines of the Gulf. The scale of production was staggering. The strait was no longer a quiet trade route. It was an industrial conveyor belt, moving millions of barrels of crude oil to a world that couldn't get enough. In 1971, the British finally withdrew their military presence east of Suez. This left a power vacuum in the Gulf. Suddenly, local powers like Iran and Saudi Arabia were responsible for the security of the strait, and the geopolitical stakes rose to a fever pitch. The Shah of Iran, backed by the United States, positioned himself as the gendarme of the Gulf. He built one of the most powerful navies in the region, specifically designed to ensure that no one, not even the Soviet Union, could interfere with the flow of oil. During the Cold War, the Strait of Hormuz was a primary theater of tension. The Soviets wanted a warm water port. The Americans wanted to protect the oil. It was a high-stakes game of shadows, where one mistake could lead to a global nuclear conflict. In 1980, President Jimmy Carter issued his famous doctrine. He stated that any attempt by an outside force to gain control of the Persian Gulf would be seen as an assault on the vital interests of the United States. Hormuz was now a red line. The world learned how fragile this was during the 1973 oil crisis. When the flow was restricted, the global economy shuddered. It proved that the Strait of Hormuz was not just a geographic location, it was a global economic switch that could be flipped at any time. In 1980, the Iran-Iraq War broke out. It was a brutal 8-year stalemate on land. But when the ground war stalled, the conflict spilled into the sea. Both nations realized they could hurt each other most by targeting the oil tankers in the strait. This was the tanker war. For the first time, neutral commercial ships became targets. Iraq attacked Iranian tankers. Iran retaliated against tankers from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. The Strait of Hormuz turned into a terrifying gauntlet of fire and sinking steel. The world couldn't stand by. The U.S. Navy began Operation Earnest Will, escorting Kuwaiti tankers through the strait. It was the largest naval convoy operation since World War II. American sailors found themselves in a high-tension standoff in the narrowest part of the Gulf. The danger was invisible. Iran began sowing the shipping lanes with underwater mines. These simple, low-tech weapons threatened to sink billion-dollar ships and shut down the global oil supply. Every transit through the strait became a game of Russian roulette with the deep. April 14, 1988. The USS Samuel B. Roberts struck a mine. The blast nearly tore the ship in half. This single moment of underwater sabotage brought the United States into a direct, violent confrontation with Iran, leading to one of the largest naval battles in history. In retaliation, the U.S. launched Operation Praying Mantis. In a single day, the U.S. Navy destroyed half of Iran's operational fleet. It was a display of overwhelming force, proving that the United States was willing to go to total war to keep the strait open. But the conflict led to a horrific tragedy. On July 3, 1988, the USS Vincennes mistakenly shot down Iran Air Flight 655, a civilian airliner. All 290 people on board were killed. It was a grim reminder of how easily misunderstandings in the strait can lead to catastrophe. The tragedy shocked the world and left deep scars in the relationship between Washington and Tehran. The Strait of Hormuz had become a graveyard and a symbol of the high human cost of global energy security. The tension never truly evaporated. When the war finally ended in 1988, the strait was quiet, but it was a fragile peace. The world had seen that Hormuz could be turned into a war zone overnight. The lesson was clear. As long as the world needed oil, the strait would be a powder keg. For a decade, the region stabilized, but the underlying tensions remained. The strait was now a permanent military theater, watched by satellites, patrolled by drones, and guarded by the most sophisticated naval technology on Earth. The Shadow War was just beginning. In the 21st century, the game changed. It's no longer just about battleships. It's about asymmetric warfare. Small, fast Iranian speedboats now play a game of cat and mouse with massive US carriers, testing the limits of engagement in the narrow shipping lanes. Drones have become the eyes and the weapons of the strait. From intelligence gathering to targeted strikes, these unmanned aircraft have added a new layer of complexity. A single drone being shot down can now trigger a week-long global diplomatic crisis. Why do we care so much? Look at the numbers. Every day, roughly 21 million barrels of oil pass through this gap. That's 20% of the world's total supply. If this flow stops, the global economy doesn't just slow down, it hits a wall. It's not just oil anymore. Qatar, the world's leading exporter of liquefied natural gas, sends its tankers through this same passage. Over 20% of the world's LNG move through Hormuz. For many countries, this isn't just about cars. It's about heating homes. The geography is the enemy. The actual shipping lanes are only 2 miles wide in each direction, separated by a 2-mile buffer. In this tight space, there is zero room for error. A single sunken ship in the wrong spot could block the entire channel. In 2019, the world was shocked by a series of shadow attacks. Tankers suffered mysterious explosions while transiting the Gulf of Oman. No one claimed responsibility, but the message was sent. Even without a formal war, the strait is never truly safe. Navies now spend billions on minesweeping and underwater security. Special forces units are stationed nearby, ready to board hijacked vessels at a moment's notice. The strait is the most heavily policed, and yet most vulnerable, stretch of water on the planet. Think about the nations that rely on this passage. Japan, South Korea, and China get over 70% of their oil from the Gulf. For the rising economies of Asia, the Strait of Hormuz is a lifeline. If it closes, their miracle ends. In the West, we feel it in our wallets. A blockade in Hormuz would send oil prices soaring toward $200 a barrel. The ripple effect would trigger global inflation, grounded flights, and a recession unlike anything we have seen in decades. The next war for the strait might not be fought with cannons, but with code. Cyber attacks on maritime navigation systems could send tankers off course or cause collisions without a single shot being fired. The digital front is the new frontier of Hormuz. Countries are trying to find a way out. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have built massive pipelines that bypass the strait, moving oil directly to the Red Sea or the Indian Ocean. But these can only handle a fraction of the total volume. There is no easy escape. The transition to green energy might eventually reduce our dependence on the strait, but that transition will take decades. For the foreseeable future, the world's heart still beats to the rhythm of the oil flowing through these ancient, narrow waters. As we move into the late 2020s, the strait remains the ultimate geopolitical chessboard. Every move by a superpower and every decision by a local leader is measured against the potential to disrupt this 21-mile gap. The stakes have never been higher. It's hard to believe that such a peaceful horizon can hold so much potential for chaos. The silence of the Musandam Peninsula belies the fact that this is the most surveyed piece of water in history. Every wave is watched. Every heartbeat is monitored. The U.S. Fifth Fleet remains stationed nearby, a permanent reminder of the Carter Doctrine. Their presence is a deterrent, but it's also a lightning rod. The balance of power here is a delicate tightrope walk that requires constant, expert diplomacy. Diplomacy is the only true shield for the strait. When dialogue fails, the price is paid in blood and billions. The history of Hormuz is a testament to the fact that our globalized world is only as strong as its weakest, narrowest link. We often forget that energy security is about more than just cars and planes. It's about the electricity that powers hospitals, schools, and homes. For billions of people, the stability of the Strait of Hormuz is the difference between progress and darkness. The clock is always ticking in the Gulf. We live in an era of perma-crisis, where the next disruption is always just around the corner. Hormuz is the ultimate black swan, an event that everyone sees coming, but no one can truly stop. The uncertainty is the only constant. Whether it's through war, accident, or sabotage, the threat of a closed strait hangs over every global summit and every trade agreement. It is the silent variable in the equation of our modern life. One drop of oil, one decision, one spark. That is all it takes to change everything. We are a space-age civilization built on a foundation of ancient liquid, and that liquid has to pass through a very, very small door. From up here, the Strait of Hormuz is invisible. Our borders and our choke points seem insignificant against the vastness of the universe. But for those of us living on this pale blue dot, that tiny gap is a world shaper. We are all connected. The coffee you drink, the phone you hold, and the light you read by are all linked to the same blue water. The story of Hormuz is, in a very real way, the story of us. We hope for peace in the strait, not just for the sake of the markets, but for the sake of the millions who live on its shores. It is a place that has seen enough war for 10 lifetimes. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the most dangerous waters on Earth. If you want to understand the forces that shape our world, make sure you subscribe. We are just getting started. There is so much more to see. The Strait of Hormuz remains a gateway, a choke point, and a reminder. We live in a world that is one decision away from a standstill. Watch the water and remember, the past is always just beneath the surface.